Yep. Hi, all.
Hello.
Oh, good. We're live streamed.
It's empty. See.
Okay. I'm just waiting a minute or two to see if Kevin will.
He's calling me now.
Okay.
Hello, everybody, and goodbye, everybody. Enjoy your meeting.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, honey. That was my first wife.
Second, I thought it was Tammy Murphy.
She has less experience, she says.
Anything new about Kevin? What's doing?
Should I try to call him?
I did already.
It looks like Yancey's on the phone with him.
Yeah. I'll wait until 7:40 and then I'll open the meeting.
Bob, what time does the city offices close tomorrow?
I think 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Tomorrow?
Yes. Check.
And are you closed Friday? Or...
Yeah, 2 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay.
How do you feel, Michael?
I'm okay.
Oh,
You too. Okay.
You look
Yeah.
good. You look fine.
Yeah. Today is our CFO's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah.
We're not singing today.
that's why I feel old.
I don't know what to do. Okay, we'll wait until 7:40 and then we'll open.
CFO's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Not singing today.
That's why I feel old.
He's logging in now.
Good. I don't know what to do. Okay, we'll wait until 7:40 and then we'll open.
I hear a replay of the conversation.
Yeah, I have to. That's mine. I had to
Okay.
pause it. I have the YouTube open in the background. Okay. And here he is. Okay. Wait, I'm gonna start this going.
Okay,
All right, so we are good to go.
okay.
Good
Here we
evening.
go. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. This is the City of Englewood City Council meeting, which is taking place tonight on Zoom. It is November 21st, 2023, and it is now, according to my clock, 7:37 p.m. Could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
Of the
United States
States of America,
and to the
To the
republic
Republic,
for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Yancy, could you please read the statement regarding the Open Public Meetings Act?
This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. Notice of this meeting was included in a notice sent to the Record and the Star Ledger and advertised in said newspapers on January 10th, 2023, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as the required notices under the statute. Revised notice for meeting location was advertised in the Record on November 19th, 2023. A copy of both notices are and have been available to the public and are on file in the office of the municipal clerk. The Englewood City Council regular meeting scheduled for Tuesday, November 21st, 2023 has been moved to Zoom. Members of the public who wish to participate in this meeting may do so by calling or clicking on the link below at 7:30 p.m. Please see link on our website, or by dialing 646-558-8656. The meeting ID for this meeting is 920-3584-6391, and the passcode is 769442. Individuals calling into this number will be able to fully participate in the meeting, including providing public comment. Public comments may be submitted by 3 p.m. on the date of the meeting, either through written letter or email to meeting@cityofenglewood.org. All written comments shall be read during the public forum portion of the meeting and shall be subject to the same time limitations for public speaking. Duplicative comments shall be noted for the record and summarized. The agenda for the meeting can be found on the city's website at www.cityofenglewood.org. Proper notice having been given, the municipal clerk is directed to include the statement in the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you, Yancy. Roll call.
Councilman Kopp,
Yeah.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Here.
Councilman Wilson,
Present.
Councilwoman Wasatski,
Present.
Council President Marin.
Present.
Also present is Mayor Michael Wild, City Manager Robert S. Hoffman, City Attorney Bill Bailey, and CFO Michael Kaufman.
Thank you very much. We're going to open our meeting this evening. We are delighted to welcome Adam Brown, who is the chairman of the Board of Adjustment at Englewood. Adam, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much, Judy, and good evening to all of you on this dark and stormy night. I'm not here lobbying for anything. It's actually my duty as the Board of Adjustment Chair to provide you with an annual report on what we've been working on. And I think the basic concept of the statutory requirement is that the City Council know the kinds of issues where residents or business owners or property owners are seeking an exception to the zoning law. Someone mentioned to me the other day that no one really knows what the zoning board of appeals is about. It has a duty that's somewhat different from the planning board. Our duty is quasi-judicial. There is basically a zoning law that's passed by the elected officials of the town that goes through multiple readings, that goes through public hearings, and because it goes through that process, there's a degree of holiness in it because the zoning ordinance has been enacted after due deliberation, and many aspects of the zoning ordinance have been in place for many, many years and deserves a great deal of respect. But the statutory scheme set up by the state is such that this process doesn't always work in every instance, and that there has to be a degree of relief available to people whose properties, and the criteria are very carefully stated in the state law, where the properties do not meet specific criteria, such as their shape, such as the slope, etc., that a degree of relief should be granted. Other types of relief that's granted is if a use is not appropriate to a particular location any longer because of the passage of time, or other circumstances, we have the ability to grant relief. One of those circumstances is if a use comes to us, or a proposal for a use that comes to us that is inherently beneficial as defined by statute, or is of a religious character as defined by federal statute, we have to look at it a little more carefully, and we have to give a certain benefit of the doubt as far as the benefits of changing the use to allow a particular use, such as a school or a house of worship, et cetera, or a medical facility, whatever. So we have a certain obligation to give exceptions. Now, this is not something, it's not like a planning board where we get to insert our own preferences. We're pretty much bound by the law and by our own interpretations of the law as we see it. So we're really a panel of judges. And we begin every hearing by asking whether there's been any interference by anybody in town outside of the hearing process, because we want to make sure that all of us are on the same page and hearing the same evidence. So we're quite strict in how we run our business. So one of the things that we do is we come before you, or we send you a letter, which we did this recently, describing what's been going on at the Board of Adjustment during the last year. And certainly the most obvious thing that's happened to the Board of Adjustment in the last couple of years has been this wave of pool applications that basically probably took up 75% of our time in 2020, 21, and 2022. And that wave has crested and passed. We're not seeing them very much anymore. I think we've had one or two in 2023. So it's a much smaller issue. We all know why it was occurring. It was occurring. Why were people building pools? Because during COVID, kids weren't going to camp, and people were stuck with kids all summer. And this seemed to be the path of least resistance for caring for them. So the issue of the pools is an interesting one. Part of the problem is, you'll note that most of the pool applications in the letter I sent you are in the first and second wards. And part of the problem, again, only part of the problem, is that approximately 20 years ago, there was a rezoning of the entire East Hill for purposes of protecting the beautiful lots particularly in the first ward and on Woodland in the south ward, protecting these lots and preventing them from being subsidized willy-nilly, because they were regarded as one of the features of the town, one of the jewels of the crown with these old 1920s houses. And so a ordinance was passed which basically uploaded everybody to 1 and 2 acre zones who had been half acre and 1 acre previously. And what this meant was that if someone came in with a half acre zone with the 1 acre parameters, there was no hope of them ever getting a pool on their property because once you took into consideration the front yard setback and the backyard setback and the side yard setbacks of a 2 acre lot, there was nothing left to build a pool on, let alone a house. So we heard a tremendous number of applications in lots that had been probably would have accommodated a pool in 1990, but did not in 2023. So that was one characteristic. And there were other reasons. Some of these lots are trapezoidal. They're not all rectangular. Various issues came up, but the overwhelming one was the fact that there were undersized lots that had been upzoned 25 years ago, and no accommodation had been made. Almost all of those were ultimately approved. They did go through a degree of modification. One of the things we learned during the process of 2020, 2021 is the land use attorneys that represent 90% of the applications before the Board of Adjustment sort of figured out what it was that was important to us. And the things that were important to us was drainage, proper drainage. The second thing was screening of adjoining properties. If you're going to put a pool in someone's backyard, within 40 feet of their house, we thought that they should have some screening. And also new technology in sound muffling. So we required all pools to come before us. We strongly suggested to them, and they get the message, that they put in sound deadening equipment, sound deadening enclosures for pool pumps. And any of you who live near a pool understand what that's all about. And it's a very minor expense. And so the applications actually improved as time went on, as the attorneys figured out what we wanted. And we found that the applications were coming in with fewer and fewer deficiencies as time went on. That being said, there is a dissenting opinion on the board, which I'm honor bound to describe. One of our venerable members, the vice chair, feels strongly that no exception should be made for pools that are in undersized lots. And I won't get into the details of that because I'll misstate his opinions, but suffice it to say, he said, quote, "I think we're giving out too many pool variances." So that's his opinion. And, certainly given his generations in this town, deserves a great deal of credit, and his standing as a former Board of Adjustment chair and planning board chair, I think. So I'll leave that with you. The second item that came up that's related to that is a couple of uses that came up that were novel, that we hadn't seen before, which are really a function of the changing times. One of them is wellness centers. So we've begun to see this. This has particularly become popular in certain elements of the Englewood community and the regional community. And these wellness centers, have things like Botox and other kinds of treatments. But they're not really medical treatments. They don't really have the characteristics of a medical treatment. And we had to wrestle with that because medical facilities are banned on the first floor in the downtown. So we wrestled with that, and we concluded that they were more like spas, which are permitted on the first floor in the downtown. And so we made a determination on at least 2 applications that these wellness centers should be treated more like spas, which because there's only marginal medical involvement. And we also approved an urgent care center down on opposite ShopRite, which is a credit to the community, something that we really needed. You shouldn't have to go to the hospital every time you break your toe. You should have some kind of ancillary facility you can go to and be treated quickly. So we approved that as well. The third kind of facility, or the second kind of facility that we saw that was not really addressed in the ordinance, is that we have provision for child daycare. We have no provision for adult daycare, which is a new thing and a big thing. And there's one major facility down on the corner of Route 4 and Grand. This is a couple of brick buildings. They also took over a second structure recently, the former NVE Bank, or what was going to have been the NVE Bank headquarters. And these adult daycare are essential. They really are. It's important to keep these families, these folks living at home. But if the children are going to be working, they need a place for mom and dad to go in their senior years. And these are not people who necessarily qualify for something like, they may not be functioning high enough for the, Bergen County Family Center. And they all come in vans. And one of the important things about when we wrestle with a possible zoning change for adult daycare, one of the aspects of adult daycare is that there's a very heavy van use. And we've seen a couple of uses in town where the van use completely clogs up the area. People stop in the middle of the street and drop people off. If you want to see one, there's a adult daycare in Bergenfield on Washington Avenue, where the van just stops in the middle of Washington Avenue and loads people. It stops all of Washington Avenue dead in its tracks for 10 or 15 minutes. So, we'll be happy to advise you on this at such time as you want to consider an application during the master planning process. A zone for this. But again, the important thing for that is that it has proper pickup and drop off van zones where people can, where the vehicle can stop and people can still get access in and out of the property. So those are the use issues: pool, wellness, adult daycare. We would encourage that to be part of the agenda in the master plan, if you don't consider it sooner than that, because that's something that's going to keep happening. We might as well just show people that we actually encourage these kinds of uses. They're good for the city. They're good for our aging population. So that's the business. That's the substantive end of what I wanted to talk to you about. The next thing is some housekeeping. We are getting some applications that are quite complicated, and we're finding that as I said to you, the attorneys are learning how to read the board, and we're seeing applications where there are major revisions made in the middle of an application because the attorneys are sensitive to read the tea leaves and to go back to their clients and suggest that they consider some changes. This results in a notice problem. We typically, when we send an application at the end of a hearing, we'll give a notice. We'll say to the public, this matter is being adjourned to such November 21st at 7 p.m. When we'll begin to hear testimony on this matter. That's all well and good, but when a person comes back to us with a modified drawing, it doesn't always, we haven't always necessarily set a date for them. So we don't have a provision in the rule for how do we, when and do we have to notice people when there's an extended application? And I've put some language in here in the letter that I think this is something Bill could help with, for provision for applicants to give, to renotice the public when there's an extended application. Okay, I mean, some of these applications take years. Mariah School took over 2 years to deal with. And we have some applications now that are certainly into their second year, some of these multifamily property applications. So I would ask you to, Bill, to talk to Mike Cates and see if we can get a zoning ordinance in place for that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Adam. I just, on the private side, I just came across this in another municipality, and I knew the old tax list was stale and just weren't required to, but just we redid it anyway. Just
Exactly.
To make sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what happens. People buy and sell their homes in this, and people
Yep.
don't. And you know, this board has gone out of its way to make sure everybody's involved and renotice, you know, whenever we think it's appropriate. And I think the attorneys, to their credit, have understood that making sure that everybody has a sense that they've been heard is a very important feature of the process. So we really go out of our way to make sure that everybody gets a shot. And we very much like to hear from neighbors. You know, one of the things that surprised me when I got on the board is how little I hear from neighbors. And it's something we really do want to encourage, because they do have an insight that a lot of things that never occur to us if we didn't hear from them. I mean, they live with these properties day in and day out, whether it's supportive of the applicant or in opposition to the applicant. You know, all facts are relevant to us. The second thing we'd want to do is change the checklist, which would make life a lot easier for us. I mean, we have the authority to ask for stuff that isn't necessarily provided, and usually attorneys are very willing to give it to us. You know, no one wants to take off a board. One of the things we'd like to have added to the checklist, Bill, is something that used to be there, because I remember from my days 40 years ago when I developed here, is they required adjoining structures to be shown on the site plan if they're within X number of feet. And so we'll get an application for a variance, and we'll see the house, but we'll have no idea where the house next door is. So I think that's really something that's very easy for a surveyor just to add in a couple of points showing the corners of the house next door.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that would be easy to add. It would save us a meeting, because many times we ask for it, and it would save everybody a lot of trouble if we can see that information from the get-go. I don't like relying on Google Maps photographs. I'd like to see it. You know,
Would that be an ordinance from the council to amend it?
no, just be it. Yeah, well, yes, the checklist. The checklist is set by ordinance of what has to be provided by an applicant.
Well, you said before that it existed. Why was it removed?
Oh, you know, every time over the course of years, the ordinances get republished. You know, we've had a bunch of different land use city attorneys in 40 years. I don't know what, it could have slipped off 35 years ago. I don't know. Maybe somebody thought we didn't need it anymore. You know, it's who can know? Who can say?
Okay.
Who can say? Every time the ordinances of the city are revised, something falls off the table. It's my experience. You know, you always have to come back. When you pass any kind of major ordinance, you've always got to be prepared 6 months later to come back and tweak it. In their experience, Bill?
Yes. Yep.
Always needs to be fixed, right?
Yeah.
Most of the problems with Obamacare was because they wouldn't fix it for 5 years, right? Because they didn't believe in it. So you have to be prepared that when you pass anything, whether it's a tree ordinance or a sign ordinance or a zoning ordinance, you gotta be prepared to come back in 6 months and fix the things that fell off the table, and talk to the planning board. Ask the planning board, have you seen any problems with what we did? Ask the Board of Adjustment. So those are the kinds of housekeeping things. But I'm now going to get to what I think is the most important thing, which is we enforce a zoning ordinance that you and your predecessors spent a lot of time and experience passing. And that zoning ordinance is, when we're asked to make an exception to the zoning ordinance, the Constitution, which guides us, is largely the master plan. And that master plan, if it's, like the chewing gum loses its flavor if you leave it on the bedpost overnight, the master plan loses its viability if it lasts beyond 10 years. In fact, it will be open season on the city for variances if we don't have a master plan by the end of 2024. So I beg you to please get going on that. The two issues that are most important to us, aside, are the flooding issue. We get a lot of testimony at hearings regarding flooding. Some of it is firsthand information. Some of it is hypothetical. But nonetheless, we don't have the only guide we have is state statute and federal statute on, what do you do in a 100-year storm and a 500-year storm? So, but I think the city should play a role in this. And to my discredit, I sat around in the 2014 master plan as a member of the planning board and never saw the issue raised. And I didn't say anything because I didn't think about it. And my interest was in the business district. That was what I focus on. But I've lived here 40 years and I've seen many floods. And I think that needs to be addressed in how we protect flood-prone areas. I think in terms of coverage and all that stuff, I think the cat is out of the horse is out of the barn on that, out of the corral. Most of our tributary area is not just Englewood, it's also Englewood Cliffs, and it's Tenafly and Bergenfield and Dumont and Teaneck. And so we don't really have control over their zoning ordinances. That being the case, what do we do about properties that come to us that are exposed to flooding and will always be exposed to flooding unless the federal government comes in and does a massive improvement to the overpack. So this is something that really needs to be addressed, and I think the state and the county and the federal government need to be involved, and the city needs to be involved, and we need to have a master plan, assuming there's going to be an environmental apocalypse, which is certainly very possible, where we're going to start seeing Hurricane Idas every other year. Okay, there's no way to defend against Hurricane Ida. There's no zoning change we can do. All we can do is try to keep the flood-prone areas of town out of harm's way. The second area, I don't think I need to spend much time discussing. It's the affordable housing issue. I don't think, I think what you're going to find that we may start seeing affordable housing stuff coming up in zones that are, or in lots or in areas that are adjacent to the affordable housing district. So you've established a principle around certain parts of town. What do we do if the property is immediately next door? Okay, I can see that. That's the kind of thing we have to think about. So you really need to spend some time with the residents and with professional planners and really sit down during 2024 and hammer out where we want it to be. I mean, we fully understand the time pressure and the legal pressure the city was under, and and they had to get something out the door. But this is the opportunity for you to really plan for the next 50 years of affordable housing. I was scratching my head about this 10 years ago, and I'm still scratching my head about it. There's this whole notion of a judgment or repose from courts in an affordable housing litigation, such as that when you have a judgment or repose, it's only, we're free. No, you're not free. You just have a couple of years off. We're going to be back and get you in 5 or 10 years, which means you got to keep providing affordable housing. You can't just stop. It doesn't mean you have to stop providing affordable housing. It just means your zoning ordinances can't be attacked. That's all a judgment repose means. It means you can't be attacked. It doesn't mean you stop building affordable housing. And a prior council completely misread, okay, I'm telling you, completely misread their obligation. And that's why we're in the situation today. We should have been building affordable housing all the time the last 10 years. This is not the board speaking. This is Adam Brown. The last thing I want to discuss with you with the master plan is what I just discussed earlier, which is the downtown flexibility. Okay, we have to start thinking about what a new downtown is going to look like. That specifically, I would say Dean Street, North Dean. I'm thinking Van Brunt, north and south. I'm thinking Engle and Grand. I mean, we really have to start thinking imaginatively about how we're going to fill those downtowns now that retail is on its back. And you know, there are other towns that have been through this process. We should just study some towns that we admire, you know, that have figured out how to keep their downtowns vibrant, notwithstanding Amazon and Alibaba and other online providers. The world has changed. It's not going back. So that's my thing. Just to recapitulate uses, the efficiency of the board, a couple of tweaks to the zoning ordinance, and the master plan. Those are the three things on our mind. I guess the fourth thing has sort of been taken care of, which was our continued use of Zoom. It looks like the state has given us authority to continue using Zoom, but I wouldn't mind if that was put into the city ordinance as well, because that's very, very efficient and seems to be considered a positive by everybody who appears before the board. And that's my report. I'm happy to take questions.
Okay. Who would like, Ken?
All right, thank you, Adam, for that comprehensive summation of the year. Have you seen applications for homes for people with substance abuse to live in a group setting coming through the community?
We have not.
Okay. Are you familiar with some of the laws surrounding them?
Oh, sure. Yeah, in 6 years, I've not seen one before the Board of Adjustment. Such a
Okay,
case.
would it come to you or the planning board, some of these?
It would depend upon if it's a conditional use in the zone or not. If it's a conditional use, it'll go to the planning board. If it requires a change of use, it would come to us.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. Bill, have you ever seen it? Come to
Well,
town?
this is a hot issue in many municipalities because there are some DCA regulations that in certain instances say they preempt the local jurisdictions. And unless they need like bulk changes or things like that, they don't have to apply for a use variance. Yeah, this is a hot topic. I was at another municipality last night and this was much discussion on it.
That's yep. That's probably, I guess
Yeah,
that's
so-
not what you can see it. You'd have to
Yes,
ask the building department whether they've seen it come through. You know, they would be the ones who would know.
Yeah, it's a
Well,
little bit
we've-
unsettled law right now, frankly, and there's some conflict, I think, even within state agencies about that issue. So stay tuned for sure.
Well, the only thing we've been able to do, I believe, we've involved code enforcement, to make sure at least once they're there that they're safe, that they have the correct number of exits and the, whatever they need to make sure that the facility itself is safe. But I don't believe we were too successful in challenging some of it. Anyway, does anyone else have anything to ask of Adam or to say?
Kevin has
Joel?
his hand raised. Kevin has his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kevin.
Yes, good evening, Adam. Thank you
Good
for
evening.
your end of the year report. I appreciate it. It's very extensive. In regards to the zoning for the pools, where we have people that have the zoning already, how does that affect us to legitimately enforce moving forward?
You're referring to people who have pools that were permitted because they were sufficient, or they were people who have pools already are grandfathered. There's no
Right.
affecting
And,
them.
and I understand that. And it says you have it has occurred more frequently in our AAA. So is that something, because the COVID has been lifted, that we should still look forward to requiring that zoning?
Well, I think so. It's an interesting question. It's not unusual to see when someone wants to build a structure in a AAA zone,
Mhm.
to see the board take a position that if it's, let's say it's a half acre lot, which I don't quite remember what it's, I think it's an RA. That will treat it, if it's a half acre lot in a 2 acre zone, we'll treat it like a half acre lot.
Okay.
Okay, which seems, it seems fair to people. And so I would say the starting point for pools would be to have the same, concept, that if it's a half acre lot, we treat it like a half acre lot, no matter where it is in the city. Because once the lot is created, that there's a set of requirements or limitations that are associated with that lot, and sort of at that point, it's hard for them to say, well, we gave you a half-acre lot, but we're treating it like a 2-acre lot for purposes of use. Now, typically, and when a home goes into a half-acre lot and a 2-acre lot, they are entitled to a variance. I mean, there's plenty of case law on that I'm sure Bill's familiar with. That you can't zone a person's property that he can't build a house on it. And I think that if I were to summarize my issue with my colleague on the Board of Adjustment, it would be that yes, you can zone a person so they can't build a pool on it. Okay, that would be, I think, his position. And so I guess I sort of treat the use of a person's home that a small pool is not inconsistent with the ownership of a house. And my personal, which has nothing to do with how I hear cases, my personal issue is anything that gets the kids out of the house and outdoors in the sunlight is a positive for society. But that's my answer. The answer to your question is all the current pools are grandfathered, and what you have to deal with is what do we do with these pools in lots that are lower, in smaller lots than it's currently zoned for, and then the issues of screening, landscaping is important, sound deadening, is important.
The buffering.
Yep, making sure there's sufficient drainage. Franz Volzi is very good at catching that. The other thing that we have sort of arrived at is sort of a common law in the absence of any guiding ordinance on it. Is that all neighbors should be treated fairly, which is you don't pick on your left-hand neighbor at the expense of, to benefit your right-hand neighbor. That if you're going to put a pool in, run it down the center line of your property. Okay, and just because you're putting a pool in doesn't mean you have to stick it on your backyard neighbor. Put it halfway between your house and the backyard property line. Just some issues of fairness. Are they law? No. Do they help relieve burdens? The burdens associated or the negatives associated with a variance? Yes. So those are the kinds of things you can put into an ordinance.
And thank you. And just one last quick question in regards to the adult daycare. Aren't most of those buildings, shouldn't they have the permit or the zoning for the vans, or is this something new now? I mean, it's not new that vans are dropping off seniors or adults. Shouldn't
there's no adult daycare ordinance in town? That's the problem. We have no ordinance at all. That's the problem. Create that concept on our own. So this is an opportunity for you when you create an adult daycare zone. You can put all the limitations you want. That's when you would address it. But right now we have to sort of make it up as sort of common law with no statutory guidance.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Adam. Charles, did you have your hand up before? Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Brown, appreciate you coming in and giving us the state of the Board of Adjustment. And what I'd like to, I have an ask for you and your board as we go through the master plan that y'all participate and advise, because I think it's going to be important, because you're the keeper of the zoning or the judicial arm, as you said earlier. So I think that guidance would be helpful. I'd like to have you lean in on that stuff. Since we've gone through this issue with affordable housing and the overlay, have you had any applications in regards to that come in front of you regarding the overlay?
Nope. Not a whisper.
Yeah, I think, what would be important, and then I'm going to close with this, is that, and I think would be a good practice is maybe annually you and your team and the board members hold a meeting to explain what the Board of Adjustment does. I think the more that we inform people of what the boards do, the better the understanding that they have, the more value it means to everybody. And I think that that's important to understand. I think that we need to share as much information as possible to the residents so they understand how things work. And if they have issues or concerns, they know where to go and what questions to ask and who they can ask them by. So I appreciate that. Thank all the members on the Board of Adjustment for their work and commitment to the city of Englewood.
Thank you very much. One of the things that occurred to me that was on this list that I didn't add is if we could, I think some continuing education for board members would be very valuable. I think very helpful. I don't think it's a lot of money. I think if the city found a way to put something modest in the budget so we can bring in professionals or sign our people up for courses, I think that would go a very long way. There are courses on flooding, and there are courses on the law and affordable housing. There are all kinds of stuff that I think that our board members should be exposed to. And
That's a
so
great
something-
idea.
Okay. But again,
Thank you.
I want to say in behalf of the board, we regard it as a tremendous honor that you've entrusted us with this, and we wish you all well in 2024.
Thank you again
you.
so much, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lisa.
She's
did
waiting. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to lower this hand. Okay, so I'm going to make a few comments. First of all, thank you, Adam, for that presentation and for sending us the report. So my first comment is in terms of what Councilman Cobb said, and also the planning board attorney has also not gotten any applications regarding the overlay zone. Second of all, regarding the continuous education credit, I think it's a really good idea. I think that it should be offered, we should do it in-house and offer it for the planning board, board of adjustment, and the city council, so everybody could benefit from it. Third of all, in terms of the pool, I listened a few times to, there's a Board of Adjustment meeting that you had in October 20th, 2022. And that's when you were, I guess, preparing for the report, and you went through all the pool applications in the prior year. It was a really excellent discussion. I think the discussion, was at about an hour and a half into the meeting after you heard some cases. And I went back to that a few times because I found it kind of educational for me. And in that conversation, the planner, Mr. Szabo, did address some of the issues that you talked about with the pools. And the conversation was, and which is why I think that with the pools, I don't mind. I mean, I guess the Board of Adjustment, doesn't saw a lot of cases, but I don't mind it going case by case. In that, one of the things he talked about was, that sometimes in these cases there's a self-imposed hardship. So people go in, they put up a house in such a way, and then they don't have room for a pool, and they created their own hardship. He talked about he himself, not even Vice Chairman Marin, but Mr. Szabo talked about there's no entitlement to a pool. Sometimes the site is way too tight. And these are just things off what he said. He talked about when you had smaller lots, then you end up with, of course, increasing your building and impervious coverage. And he talked towards that you need to look at the negative criteria in these cases. You want to look at the character of the area and look at the negative criteria involved in improving these cases. So I thought that was very enlightening. He didn't. I actually had that conversation, Adam. You mentioned to him about, well, maybe treating 1/2 acre the same anywhere. There's a 1/2 acre, and he actually rejected that notion. So I thought it was a worthwhile conversation. In that conversation, he also referred to a study that he did that he gave to the Board of Adjustment on these issues. And I'm wondering if we could have a copy of that study that he refers to on October 22nd. I don't know if that's something you can get for us, or whether Yancey could get that for the council.
Yeah, I can get that for you. I will mention to you that the board was not enamored with the study, not because it wasn't excellent in its execution, but because somehow it felt that Englewood was in some way equivalent to other towns. I mean, Englewood has its own zoning history and its own dynamic. And certainly the negative consequences have to be considered. I think the question before the board is whether there are public benefits, or whether there are benefits to having pools in a community. Okay, and I think where I differed from the great dissenter was that I personally felt that there was a benefit to pools, and I think beyond just the private benefit of the owner, and he did not feel there was any kind of benefit to it. So the negatives are well understood, and we went out of our way to try to ameliorate those negatives by things like sound deadening, by screening, okay, by requiring that pools be put in the center line of a property, not favoring one neighbor over another. One of the problems we had with pools, and we had to read the negatives into ourselves, not a problem, one of the features of hearing the pool applications is the first and second wards tend to be socially cohesive communities. And people, these are communities that have children go to school together and share houses of worship. And we observe there's a tendency not to object to neighbors' applications. And we reached a point where we decided that we simply had to call in, we had to notice these objections on ourselves. It could not depend upon what might occur in other towns where neighbors might come with, torches and pitchforks over a neighbor's application. That doesn't happen in these sections of town for the most part because of this cultural affinity. And so we had to read between the lines because our objective is not to benefit one neighbor or another neighbor or to benefit one applicant or an objector. We defend the zoning ordinance, and we bring up issues even when no one brings them up.
And
So you're quite right. I'll be happy to share that with you.
thank you.
I think what we were dissatisfied with in terms of the ordinances in other towns was that they were overly focused on X feet here and Y feet there, and did not focus on the equities of the situation as one neighbor versus another, or the fact that a property was upzoned substantially. They were probably ordinances have been in effect for 20, 30, 40 years in lots that could accommodate the pools. So that was, I think that really was my issue with John's thing. That all being said, the Board of Adjustment is not a legislature. Okay, and we're not a legislature; we're a court. So, and the reason I brought this pool issue up to you is you guys have to decide after the master planning or as participants in the master plan whether you wish to legislate. Okay, so I'm happy to share this with you, but that's the point. That's the reason I'm discussing with you. We were perfectly happy hearing all these cases and deciding case by case. By the way, I think we're still going to need to hear them case by case. I still think, I looked at these cases, and I would say 90% of what we looked at, no matter what you do with the zoning ordinance, we're still going to hear it because there's going to be some quirk to each one. So I don't think there's ever going to be a time when we have no pool cases. But all I'm asking is, I think the city council should have some input into how we address them. Certainly the sound deadening issue you can address. Certainly the landscaping, the screening you can address, right? Certainly the issue of fairness between neighbors is something you could address. Certainly you could say that we think that if you depend upon us for giving you a benefit, a zoning variance, or the pool's got to be no bigger than X, people should not proposing Olympic-sized pools and coming to us for a variance, right? That doesn't seem particularly appropriate. But that's something that I think that you guys, as the elected body of the city, should consider.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Lisa,
Lillian.
are
Thank you. I didn't mean to take this much of your time, but I really
No, it's okay. It's very interesting. Lisa, are you finished? Because Michael Wilds has something he would like to ask.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. Adam, what a treat. I've come to really appreciate your service and the different hats that you've worn, and it's a real treat to see the report and today's presentation as well. You're speaking significantly when you talk about downtown flexibility. What we thought would be appreciated was people living and sleeping in the city. The last master plan artfully spoke that if the Mitchell Simon lot came on the block, we should try to put an apartment building there. And things seem to be changing, and the politics of development seem to be changing. I'm looking in structural terms on a few things. Number one, I concur with you on the Zoom. I think it's for the more senior people on the boards, it's the most convenient way for them to see all the plans and be able to do this from home. How can we create a more right of confrontation, as it would be for the public to feel that they are participating as much by Zoom as they would be in person? In other words, to me, when we had the entire gallery like we have now with the public, it gives the opportunity or the appearance where you can read people's expressions and faces, and their participatory parts of it seem to be more democratic than when we just have our panel there and we're removed from public scrutiny, as it were.
Would you like can I answer that one right off the bat?
Please.
We're not a legislature, okay, and we're judges, and we basically make a decision based on testimony of the participants and of their attorneys and their experts and our experts. And we're really not particularly interested in seeing the facial expression of people sitting in the audience. That's really not an appropriate thing for us. And
so in our sphere, it's a different role that you perceive. And since it's a quasi-judicial decision, it has to be based on the merits of evidence that's put forward.
Yes, if people want to present evidence rather than a scowl, they're welcome to come up and say, and under oath.
Well, they can always come here to scowl if they need to. So you talked also about social cohesion, being neighbors, being on the same kind of plane. We have to kind of keep in mind technology. You conceded that the last master plan didn't deal with flooding. We seem to have 100 and a 500-year storm every few years these days. I would just urge you to play a role when we do get in the planning board up to the master plan when it comes to technology, whether it's drone technology or other things that you think from meters, parking meters, and other ways for code enforcement and PSE&G and all the things that kind of go into our property and our property rights and interests in the city to opine. I think it highly important because that seems to be going light years ahead of us. And just one final comment for your edification. I keep interviewing new talent for the different boards. I think it's important. There are people that leave our city or grow tired or get conflicted because of professional and personal challenges. I just want to make sure you and I are on the same page about nominations that I make to the governing body and so forth, so that we never have a lapse in membership and participants.
Yes, well, the most important thing, Mayor, I think, on that issue would be that the perfect result would be appointments at the organizational meeting on January 3rd.
Yeah. So I spoke to you. My intention is to renominate everybody that wants to serve, and there are a few other people that confided in me that they may be moving forward. So let's you and I make that happen then.
Okay. And I want to bring up the last thing about the technology. We have two issues, of course. One is sustainability, right? Whether we build a town that sustains itself. That's going to be a bigger problem as time goes on. But I think the real issue is going to be resilience, which is how do we keep taking these hits that are not of our own causing, and not have a national emergency in town every time we get a flood. And this is not something we created. Okay, we didn't put the Greco School under 6 feet of water, and we didn't put 111 West Street underwater, and we didn't put Westmore Gardens underwater, and we didn't put ShopRite underwater, but somebody did. Okay, some city government did, because all of those were, with the exception of ShopRite, were undeveloped until after World War II. And there's a good reason why during 300 years of settlement of Englewood, no one ever put anything there. But previous councils in their wisdom did put stuff there, and we're stuck with it. And we've got to find some way that we can not have we're going to get flooding again and again and again. And one of the comments I've observed, one of the things I've observed in 40 years of building, how old am I? 50 years, is that when you have a major flood zone, impervious coverage and pervious coverage are exactly the same. Okay, when the voids between rocks and soil and stones are filled with water, there's no difference between a grassy lawn and a paved driveway. Okay, they all have the same runoff. Once they've reached saturation point, the whole the whole hill is paved. Doesn't make any difference what's on it. So that being the case, if we're going to get more IDAs, then the only way to really deal with this problem is resilience and building a town that can sustain the hit.
More channels, more ways of piping the water out.
It may be it may be, yes. And we may need places to detain water.
Well, we are working on that, and I'm sure you're going to hear more and more from the council and, excuse me, from Bob Hoffman. But anyway.
Please, that's the best solution of all, is to start to build a town that can take the hit.
Anyway, once again, pardon me for, thank you so much for appearing before
and
us.
By the way, thank you guys for everything you do. I really do appreciate it.
Okay.
It's hard work.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Good night, Adam.
Night.
Okay, we are going to now go to the approval of minutes. We are going to deal with resolution 354-11-21-23, which is the resolution accepting minutes. Do we have a motion? Oh, can we hear what minutes we're approving?
Just want to confirm. June 27th, 2023.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Please.
So moved.
Second? I second. Any comments? Any comments from the council, from Michael? Okay, roll call.
Councilman Cup? Councilman Cup? Oh, you're muted, sorry.
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig?
Yes.
Councilman Wilson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wasatski?
Yes.
Council President Marin?
Yes. Okay, bills and claims. Excuse me, everybody. Resolution 355-11-21-23. This is to approve payment of bills and claims. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
You can
I
take both
second.
of those or second it, because there was two people who said so moved.
Well, I'm not seconding. I'm only moving.
We moved at the same time, so it don't matter. Whoever.
Okay, will
move
one
it.
of you second?
Yeah, I second it. Don't worry.
Okay, great. Anyone have any comments or
Yes, I do.
questions? Go ahead.
I on page 4, and I'm going to ask you in page 7. This Atlantic Coast Recycling LLC. September's bill was $23,960 and 30 cents, and then we have one for $26,825.70 in August. And my question is to Mr. Hoffman, Mr. Kaufman, whoever would like to answer this, is that if we're going to average somewhere in between like 24,000 a month, which will put us close to about a little over 250,000 a year. Did anybody kind of work up the numbers to see what this cost is? And are there other ways to doing what we're doing here with this Atlantic Coast Recycling, or cheaper methods, cheaper ways?
Do we have an answer? Bob?
The answer is this is for the single stream disposal of our recycling material. We've looked at it. We're looking at it for budgeting. Are we budgeting the right amount for next year? One of the ways that we can ameliorate it or reduce it a bit is to evaluate. If we went to dual stream, would there be a lower cost? But then, that we have to look at, is the material clean, and then what does it do to our residents? But Mr. Cobb, to answer your question, we've been monitoring it, but we don't have a definitive answer. Dual stream would wind up reducing some of the costs, but there's other factors that are involved.
So did we look at other firms who do that? Did we look at other towns who do that as well to see if we could get a better price? Could we negotiate a better price with these guys?
We haven't looked at other towns. We haven't looked at a shared service with other towns. If that was one of your questions, that's something we would probably do in the future. But we have not approached Atlantic, the recycling company, Atlantic Coast Recycling, to see if we can get a better price. There are, I believe, 2 other competitors now, and that have additional capacity. So we'll wind up looking at that. But there's going to be about 8 million tons of capacity coming online with Atlantic Coast and with other suppliers in the near future. So that should help.
This is pretty expensive. This will be a big budget item here. And if we're going to continue with this price, then we're going to have to look somewhere else to reduce some costs from us, because this is almost $300,000 a year right now. And who knows how it goes? Usually things don't get cheaper, they get more expensive.
Correct. The only thing we can do is we know that there's going to be additional capacity that's coming online in the next 14 months. And we will wind up talking to to Atlantic Coast, but also to some other folks in the recycling business that will now have excess or additional capacity.
Okay. On page 6, we got something with the library. Sofa chairs removal, $4,011.66. That's pretty expensive.
Well, yeah, that was the removal of 10 sofa chairs and other desks, other furniture that was removed. So it just wasn't the sofa chairs, but there was 10 of them. But yes, that was something that it was taken by the cleaning company, and it was disposed of. So that was something that we questioned, because I wanted to know what was it.
So, well, hopefully we got them some new furniture. That's what I would hope. Number one.
Yes, we did. And this was broken tables and seedy chairs and things like that had outlived its useful life.
So Mr. Volsi didn't join us this evening, did he?
No.
Okay, because I have some questions, but I have one more question on page 8. At the top, LSRP remediation, and it looks like it's a fee. We have 3 entries there, one for $16,715, one for $23,855, and another one for $10,740. And then remediation fees. What was remediated?
Michael, if you could check, but I believe that there are wells that were there that have to be monitored for a significant period of time. So
is that what that is?
Yeah. So Michael, are you able to check on that?
Yeah, once.
Yeah.
And one more question on the same page right below it. It says emergency repairs, 10 locations, $85,284.
Yeah, that's New Prince Construction. We went out to bid to have a contractor on call so that they can, if there's a pipe break or something like that, that they can come and repair it. So we've had the engineer directs them. So we have had collapsing sidewalks. We've had them had to repair sanitary sewer lines, stormwater sewer lines in different locations around the city.
Okay, can we get those locations and share that with the council members so they know, so that they're asked any questions by the residents, they can answer the question?
Sure. What we'll do is we'll get the information on the 3 LSRP costs as well as where New Prince has been directed to make the repairs, and we will send that out to the governing body.
One was the Englewood, the 23,000 was the Englewood Police Department. Franz would know exactly what happened over there. The other one was,
yeah, I think, yeah, if he knows, just have him put an email together. And also for down below where we have and which I didn't know, it seems like a lot. West Street road improvements for $165,716, and then we have below that road program for $418,000. It'd just be nice to know where these things are taking place. If we can have those details shared with the council members so that we know what particular work is going to be done or is being done or has been done. Thank you.
Okay.
Kevin?
Yes. Could you give a quick explanation on the pilot agreement on page 1 for King Gardens housing for $31,257.82?
sure. The city has to give 5% of all pilot revenues to the county. So this is just 5% of the 2023 revenues that we received.
Okay, and does that include are we plowing? Is that part of the percentage we get back for not plowing in that area, or are we plowing?
No, nothing to do with that.
Okay, all right. And I see that on page 2, and I may have missed it, the parking garage, we paid for the PSE&G and so forth, but I didn't see an entry for, were we repairing our old cameras or putting up new cameras and painting? Did I miss that on here? Or has that not taken place yet, Mr. Hoffman?
No, there are new cameras that are in there, as well as the new fire alarm system that had been damaged. Councilman, what page was that on?
Well, it's on page 2, but it was under parking in garage, and I figured that if the cameras were purchased, that we might have had that on this list as well, because I knew that was a hot topic.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think the cameras had been previously purchased, and now they were installed. But we'll get the information and email it out to the council.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that, Bob. I appreciate it. And if we go to our holiday bags, aren't our bags consistent, or are we doing new designs for the meters?
The holiday bags, I believe this is the covers that we're putting over it. Basically starting tomorrow through Christmas, the day after Christmas, so that there's people don't have to pay to park. People don't have to pay for the meters when they come.
I'm familiar, and thank you for that. But I'm just asking. We had some before, and I'm just asking: did we do a new logo or a new design?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that the bags were kind of seedy, and we ordered new ones. But
okay.
Well,
and we had something on page 8 for the sewer repair for $20,935.01. We had discussed at some previous meeting in regards to training that individuals that come out to repair our equipment in our parks, in our sewers and so forth, and our pumps, can that not be looked at again, that we have our DPWs take classes or get certified to do these repairs? Is that out of our scope?
Michael, if you could look this up, Councilman, the theoretical answer is no. If this is a piece of equipment, this is something that our mechanics can go to school and learn how to fix if this is, if this is something that's on a vehicle. But I'm just not sure if this is one of our pumps at a pumping station.
Yeah, it's on page 8, halfway down.
All right.
One
Yeah.
is 2206 storm sanitary improvement. Because from what I understand, that these pumps are repaired within a couple of hours. And that just seems to keep popping up every now and then. And I think that $20,000 may be worth us looking at repairing our own equipment.
Yeah.
The materials cost $9,400. There was 53 hours of labor and 27 hours of straight time and 27 hours of overtime. So it was 81 hours of work.
You said 51 hours?
53 hours of
53?
straight time and 27.75 hours of overtime. So that's a total of 80 hours.
Yeah. Now, Michael, was that for
McKay Park Pump Station?
Okay, so this was a stationary pump station, Councilman.
Yes, and I'm just curious. The overtime, what is that, for a weekend or something? That it was an emergency. They called in on a Saturday or Sunday, or they bill us after 5 o'clock. Is that what that? How does that work?
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get back to you. I don't have access to that right now, but I'll make a note. So that was page 8.
I can tell you what I can tell you what it was in more detail. They provided labor to check problem with Muffin Monster not working and to pull pump number 1 clogs, performed wet well cleaning, performed confined space entry, and pulled and unclogged both pumps, pulled and disassembled Muffin Monster, found cartridge was defective bearings, cleaned inlet chamber and discharge pipe, brought cartridge and pump back to shop for repairs, placed bearings, disassembled pump, replaced mechanical seal gasket and stuff like that.
And thank you for the detailed itemized list. Thank you for that. But I was just curious, if we're paying an hourly rate, how do we work that into overtime? I'm not following how that works.
It's their yeah. I guess their guys work overtime, so they charge it to us.
Do we have a contract with them? A maintenance agreement?
Yes, we do.
And that's and they doing us like that? Can we search around to see around, if there are other people who do this that could be a little cheaper, a little bit more, because we have more than one pumping station in Englewood, and it's going to be used because there's a need. So we need to be able to be in a position where the maintenance on these things are more frequent, so then we don't have to pay these prices with overtime and all that other stuff. So we may need to shop around. How long, and if we do have a maintenance agreement, how long are we tied to this maintenance agreement?
Yeah, we'll check. This is something that I think we went out to bid for recently, but we'll check and get back to the council.
Okay, I have a question. I'm sorry, Kevin. Have you got anything else?
No, I think that's enough for me. Okay. Thank you.
I want to ask about, also on page 2, Ruderman's firm is charging us for something in the month of September. And since they're paid on an hourly basis, it seems a little unusual to have a number like this. I don't know what they're charging for. I would like to know what it's for. It's a lot of money. It's almost $20,000.
Okay, I'll let you know tomorrow, because I have their file on my desk.
Good, because $1,183.50, can't figure that out. $15,000 also seems extraordinary for 1 month, but could you please let me know?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
We had some hearings and grievances, but I will let you know. I'll let everybody know.
Yeah, Bob, I'm sure they worked. It just seems like a lot of money. Anyway, anybody else with any, Ken?
Yeah, thank you. Michael?
Yes.
Hi, so, thank you for explaining the pilot payments earlier. Now, is that for all pilots, or is it just specifically for these 3 properties that the county gets a 5% cut?
So we only have 4 pilots. So one of them was in existence before we didn't renew it. It's an old pilot that was in existence before the law came in effect. So Westmore Gardens we're not paying. So the other 3 we're paying.
And so all future pilots would have a 5% payment to the county?
Yes. Any new pilots would have 5%. Yes.
Is there any similar obligation in new pilots to the school board?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, roll call. Yancy?
Councilman Cobb,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Councilman Wilson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wasatski,
Yes.
Council President Marin.
Yes. Okay, we have no ordinances for second reading. Now we're going to ordinances, an introduction. This is a first reading for ordinance 23-28. Yancy, you want to read that one?
This is an ordinance amending Chapter 25, Section 25-20, Schedule 12 of the Traffic and Parking Ordinance of the Code of the City of Englewood for West Palisade Avenue from the monument to the Teaneck border.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? I need a motion. No motion?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Kevin, are you raising your hand?
No, ma'am.
Okay, do I have a motion for this? We have no motion.
I think we need to discuss this. And I
No,
think this
we
is-
will. I believe we have to have the motion and then we have the discussion.
I think the problem is that, why I'm saying it is because we've had this thing come up twice already. And, I think that the ask was last time was let's discuss the specifics of this before we got to this point again. And here we are again. That's what I think. So, because I think there was some
There were questions.
gray areas in terms of what does this mean? Did we line it up with the previous ordinance, the parking on there on the Palisade Avenue? We know something needs to be done because in order to sweep the streets, we know that the signage is bad. So we needed to know how this lines up. And it's not only that, you got 2 wards involved. You got the 3rd ward and the 4th ward on each side. So it's incumbent upon those folks to know that what's being attempted to do. That's what I'm saying. I think that this is why we have this problem here right now.
Yeah.
Okay, Bill, can I ask you exactly what we should do with this? If we want to,
What if
Put
you
this-
move to table it and put it on for the next work session as a discussion item?
okay.
We
can
could
I
do, yeah, you
Can
could
I
do that.
just ask if we can have a motion to table?
Well, before you do, Judith, what is it doing from the monument to the Teaneck border? What's
Well,
the,
the reason, excuse me, Michael, the reason we're tabling it is so we can have more extensive discussion on it. Right now,
I'm just curious what the ordinance is looking to enact. In other words, is it a
Looking
traffic?
to enact the ability for DPW to sweep both sides of the street, which in order to do it right now, they have to go out and mark the street and give people notice to do that. And also with that is the proper signage and the ordinance have to line up. So we do it once, so we get it right.
Okay,
I
now
think
the
thing of it
deafening
is
silence.
to
I
understand
wasn't
what we're
sure.
doing now. Huh?
Yeah.
Thank you, Charles. I wasn't
And-
sure over the silence. Now I understand it.
And,
Yeah.
and one of the reasons why I wanted to table it before, which we did, was because there were people getting exorbitant amount of tickets without clear marking of the signs.
Right.
Okay, so this is just for procedure. We're going to have a motion to table, and then at our next meeting, we'll have more discussion on this? Is
Well,
this
if I may, yes, if the council has any questions, before then, we're happy to answer them. One of the requests, at the meeting was to show a mock-up of the sign. So that's what's in the
That's in the
packet.
packet, right?
So, that's been it's been tightened up. There's been a couple of variations of the sign, but this is for the council to consider. So if we can do a discussion at the next meeting, but there's only 2 meetings left in the year. So if the council wants to discuss it at the next meeting, that's fine. We would just wind up introducing it after the council's satisfied with it, after January, because you would have the introduction of the ordinance and then the adoption at the next meeting.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
a point of order, we can't do, Bill, I believe we can't.
Can't carry it over.
You
We
can't
can't
straddle
carry
the year.
Yeah, you
can't
can.
carry
So that's why it would just
can't
be
introduce in 2023 and adopt in 2024.
correct. But that's why you were saying we would have discussion at the next meeting. So
So it would not be introduced in December, it would be introduced
this,
in January, I believe you were saying, just so
That-
everybody knows, which means it would
yes, correct.
be adopted
Correct.
in February.
But the details can be ironed out at the next meeting. Because you
Correct.
got
Yes,
the-
it would be
You
on.
got the north side, which is the 3rd Ward side, and you got the south side, which is the 4th Ward side. So, the signage has to be right on both sides of the street, because it impacts the people, how they're gonna move their cars on both sides of the street.
Okay,
So,
I get a sense that we have agreement that we should table this for more extensive discussion.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
do I have a motion to table?
so move.
Second,
Second,
roll call.
Oh, you're going a little fast for me. Councilman Kopp,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Councilman Wilson,
yes.
Councilwoman Wasatski,
Yes.
Council President Marin.
Yes. Okay, ordinance 23-29. Yancy, you want to read that, please?
This is an ordinance of the City of Englewood, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to amend Chapter 319, Property Registration of the General Ordinances of the City of Englewood.
Okay, do I have a motion?
What? Hey, Bill, can you
So moved.
describe what this is before we?
We'll do that. I just wanted, I was just following procedure to get the motion and the second and then the discussion. I
So I'll
don't
move
care.
it.
Okay, can I just have a second and then we'll go to Bill? Is there a second? I
I'll second.
seconded. All right, Bill, would you like to explain this to us?
Yes, this is, we discussed this at a prior work session. This is amending the municipality, the city's disorderly conduct ordinance. To be a
no.
little more.
No, Bill, no.
No, that's the one before.
This is
Yeah.
property registration.
Yeah, this is
Property
property, yeah,
I'm sorry.
2329.
Yeah, this is the, we have a ordinance on the books for property registration for properties in foreclosure and vacant and abandoned properties. That was adopted probably 10 years ago. There was litigation over that, not involving the city, but elsewhere in the state. And then subsequently, the state legislature amended that statute to insert, it made certain changes, including the fees and fines that can be paid, clarifying who's responsible on the municipal end, code enforcement, the city clerk, and what have you, for enforcing it. And that what's now before you then is essentially an amended ordinance that pretty much mirrors the legislation that was adopted in 2022, I believe it was, and was subject to challenge. However, that stuff has all been concluded now. So this requires a responsible party, for example, is defined in the ordinance as the owner of a vacant or abandoned property, or a mortgage company, a bank, a lender that is foreclosing on property. That way, it enables municipalities to have a warm body, for lack of a better word, to contact on behalf of a bank to say, hey, There's vermin here, it's in disrepair, and it requires them, when they do file the foreclosure, to register with the town so that the town and code enforcement can track it.
So does this give us teeth?
Yes.
Yes.
That's why we brought it up. Okay, anybody else? Any comment?
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong device when you asked.
So-
No, don't worry.
I
Okay.
got a quick question. As you guys know, that we had an incident next to the brook on West Palisade Avenue where the city had to go out and get it cleaned up. And so how do we move forward for continual maintenance if they do not comply?
There's a series of fines, and they keep getting accelerated or enhanced as it's uncured. If a certain amount of time goes by that's unacceptable to the city can either through our own DPW or, if necessary, depending on the nature of the violation, cure it, and then put those costs back onto perhaps the bank in foreclosure or the vacant property owner. If it doesn't get paid immediately, it's a lien on the property that would earn interest until it's paid.
So that's property maintenance that would go to sites like Green Street and Inglewood Avenue in the corner there that would help inform them to keep it maintained.
It could,
Correct.
yes.
Any other question, or can we have a roll call? Roll call.
Councilman Cobb,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Councilman Wilson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wasatski,
Yes.
Council President Marin.
Yes, thank you. We're now ready for public comment on agenda items. Once again,
Councilwoman,
Oh, you
skipped
skipped
one.
one more.
oh, I'm sorry. How could I forget this? Ordinance 23-30, which is the disorderly conduct. Would you read the ordinance, Yancy, the title?
This is an ordinance of the City of Englewood, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to amend Chapter 307, Article 1, Disorderly Conduct of the General Ordinances of the City of Englewood.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to table this ordinance.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I second.
Okay, roll call.
Sorry,
Yancy?
I'm sorry, I'm just writing. Councilman Cobb,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Councilman Wilson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wasatski,
Yes.
Council President Marin.
Yes, thank you. And now we come to public comment on agenda items. Once again, we ask the members of our public to state their names, their addresses, and to keep their comments or their questions to 3 minutes. If there is a question, we will answer the question at the end of the public comments on agenda items. Yancy, would you call the people?
Setting up my clock. Okay, first one with their hand raised is Diane Jansen. Please unmute. Diane?
Hi, Diane, 589 Richland Terrace. My first question is on the resolution 358, Cross Street Condo Association. I do not see an attachment there, so I do not know what that is in reference to, and if you could explain that. My next question is on 359, the appointment of a special counsel for Englewood Care One, Englewood, Englewood One, the lawsuit, and question is for Bill. Is it possible that because there is a lawsuit that the builders do not want to proceed with the overlay zone since it could put them in a precarious situation? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane. Yancy, is there anyone else?
No, no one else has their hand raised.
All right, Bill, could you answer?
You want to
Diane?
close the public portion first?
Close the public portion, I could
Okay,
close the public portion.
okay, I am closing the public portion
And just to address Ms. Jansen's comments, with respect to 358, the Cross Creek, in New Jersey, there's something called the Qualified Municipal Services Act, which is where municipalities do not provide, for example, snow plowing, garbage removal, leaf removal, recycling, and lighting for a qualified community association, which is typically a condominium association. The municipality, in lieu of providing this service, can reimburse them for the costs that the condo association actually incurs, or what the municipal cost would have been had the municipality perform those services, whichever is less. So historically, the city has had, as long as I've been around, agreements with Cross Creek and some other condominium units, which will be coming up soon as well. For this, Cross Creek's expired December 31st, 2022. And our auditors, our CFO, went through their actual expenses and then did an analysis of what it would cost the city to do, and made a recommendation in terms of what the municipal cost would be. Previously, Cross Creek, the reimbursement was $145,000 a year. It's come down a little bit. I'm speculating, but probably due to a decrease in snow removal, given the relatively mild winters we've had of late. So our auditors came up with a calculation, and that figures $140,000 and change. So it's a little bit lower per year, and it would be a 3-year agreement. Part of the delay in getting to this was municipalities aren't obligated to pay for all the lighting on the premises, just for the street lighting. And I know there was a lot of difficulty getting that information from public service to allocate it just to the street lights, not for the entire lighting for the development. So that's what that is. The next item, 359, special counsel. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the builders or anything. It's just to authorize Mr. Buzak's firm to continue as special counsel for the city and to defend the city in that case, and file the answer.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. We now move to resolutions. This is the consent agenda. We have resolutions 356 to 362. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'd like to pull 362 and vote on it by itself.
Okay. I'm assuming we can just do that.
Yeah,
Bill?
we can.
Okay.
Bill,
Okay, we're pulling 362, but this has to do with 356 to 361. Roll call?
Councilman Cupp,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Councilman Wilson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wasatski,
Yes.
Council President Marin.
Yes. All right. We're now moving on to communications from the
362.
governing body.
362.
I'm sorry. Okay. I just wanted. Okay. As per
Football team.
Charles, we're now voting on 362-11-21-23. Charles, would you like to read that?
Yes, a resolution recognizing DMHS football team for winning the Super Football Conference Ivy Division Championship.
Terrific. Do we have a second? Do we have a motion?
Second.
Yes.
I make a motion.
Do we have a second? Charles,
Second.
Okay. Yancy, roll call?
Councilman Cupp,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Councilman Wilson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wasatski,
Yes.
Council President Marin.
Yes, and congratulations to our terrific athletes. Very proud
Absolutely.
of you.
Yep.
And their
Okay.
coaches.
And the coaches and
And
the
the
team
coaches, yep.
managers and everybody who was involved.
And the
Everybody that
parents.
had anything to do with it, we applaud you.
Yep.
Okay, we now are going to move on to communications from the governing body and the city manager. We'll start with Mayor Wiles.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everybody. Election results. Congratulations to 37th Legislative District State Senator Gordon Johnson and Assemblywomen Shema Hader and Ellen Park on their re-election, as well as to Englewood's First Ward Councilman Dr. Rosenzweig on his re-election, and Third Ward Councilwoman-elect Angela David. I thank Angela for her service on the Englewood Board of Education and look forward to working with her for the betterment of our city as a councilwoman. We are also fortunate to have an active and accessible representatives, and I'm pleased to see that they received the support that they needed to recognize their service. The city Thanksgiving schedule is posted. We want to just remind everybody the Englewood City Hall offices will close at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. November 22nd will be closed Thursday, November 23rd, and Friday, November 24th for the Thanksgiving holiday. Trash collection will be suspended on the 23rd and 24th, resuming with the regular schedule on Monday, the 27th. I caution everybody with Thanksgiving travel, the TSA anticipates an extremely busy Thanksgiving travel season this week and next, with the highest number of people flying since 2005. Airline travelers are urged to take advantage of early online check-in, to utilize airline websites, mobile apps to monitor flights, and to arrive in ample time to give time to potentially long security lines. As always, if you see something, say something that looks suspicious, immediately notify a TSA and other public safety agents. Englewood's bakeries have been recognized. Congratulations to all are due also for Englewood's own Balthazar Bakery and Dolce de Leche's sister store in West New York for being named to NewJersey.com's list of New Jersey's top bakeries. Our city is home to some of the finest shopping and cuisine in the area. I urge everyone who has not yet had the Englewood experience to visit and to see all that is enjoyed. A special thank you also to Flat Rock Brook. After 50 years, its anniversary, had History Day, looking back at the history of its cherished, long nature preserve, learning not about its different uses that it went through, but as well as those that it would like to in the future. Ultimately, we're very fortunate to have this beautiful tract of open space rather than an apartment city, rock quarry, or gun range. Those were all the things that were suggested. Thank you again to Executive Director Stephen Weisner, along with his predecessors and all of the other board members, volunteers, and supporters who have helped maintain this very special piece of our city. And finally, the City of Englewood is currently running a survey to allow residents to give feedback on city parks. The survey is available at the City of Englewood Facebook page. Please take a few minutes to give us your opinion on the state of the city parks and how we can better serve the community's needs. For the rest of an update on Englewood's latest news and how it affects you, join us every Friday on the City of Englewood's library Facebook page, where we have a virtual coffee with the mayor. I wish everybody a meaningful time with your families, and may God bless our city and all of its residents in this Thanksgiving week. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Councilman at Large, Charles Cobb.
Thank you. Good evening. And I just like to thank everybody who's listening to this virtually. First, I'd like to start off by congratulating our football team and becoming champions of the Ivy League. I think it's important that people understand what it means to become a champion. You know, that will go with those young men for the rest of their lives. But more importantly, when I looked at this football team and I looked at the people who are involved, you know, you have young men, you have these coaches, and then you have team managers that consist of some young ladies as well. And it's truly at the leadership of Joseph Hoyle Jr. That has really brought this home. He has a family affair. You know, his daughter is one of the team managers as well, and his wife, they work in the concession stand. So he has his whole family involved. But kudos to the parents, kudos to the players, kudos to the student athletes on that team that have come there, and they have represented the city And that's what we come to expect, whether they bring home a championship or not, but they have represented the city in the right way. So I appreciate each and every one of those young individuals, along with the coaches, wives, mothers, parents, fathers, and all that's involved. But also, we have a soccer team of young ladies who are also champions, league champions at Dwight Moore High School. So something's in the water once again at Englewood, that we're doing it right. We have kids that are being successful, student athletes that are working really hard. And so this is really shining a light on those programs up there. And then we have a 16 and under baseball team led by Steve Barrios and a bunch of other gentlemen that they were tournament champions. So, our young people are really representing this city, and they should be applauded. We oftentimes talk about all the bad things that are going on, but these are some of the good things that are going on that we can all be proud of with this stuff getting on. So I just wanted to lift that up. One of the things that I think is important, I want to address again, is this, we keep hearing about this affordable housing thing, and I will continue to tell people that the city's position is the right position. We continue to do that, and we continue to make ways to make this right for the city, and people can feel comfortable about our positions, because our positions are to defend you, and we're advocates for you, and we are going to continue to do that. Again, nobody's losing their home. Again, we still have control of our zoning, as Mr. Brown said earlier, and he's part of one of the stewards of the zoning. So again, we're going to continue to work hard. We're going to continue to keep you informed about what's going on about that. So, and we're going to take all the measures as possible to make sure that things work out for us. So with that being said, what I'd like to close in is just saying that I want to wish everybody a healthy, safe Thanksgiving, and take some time to just spend some time with your family. There's a lot going on in the city of Englewood, a lot of things that need to be addressed, but spend some downtime with your family, get re-energized, come back, and let's continue to do the good work to move this city forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles. First Ward Councilman, Dr. Kenneth Rosenzweig.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the residents of the First Ward for putting their faith in me for another term. I greatly appreciate it and never take it for granted. Congratulations to Angela David, who I look forward to working with on the council next year. On November 12th, I had an opportunity to participate in the 2 Parks in 1 Day program. I was there for the first park, Morris Park, which is a hidden jewel in town. As part of the program, participants put stakes in different areas of the park of things that they liked or things that could be improved. And there were so many stakes in the ground, I couldn't even really get to them all. The park is, after all, about 5 acres. So very, very successful program, and congratulations to Dr. Wasatsky and the Rutgers team for organizing that. Congratulations again to the football team on their championship, and I wish everyone a happy and healthy Thanksgiving and safe travels.
Thank you, Ken. Lisa, Second Ward Councilwoman, Dr. Lisa Wasatsky.
Hey, thank you. So first of all, I want to congratulate our football team, our girls soccer team, and our 16U baseball team on their success. I want to congratulate Senator Gordon Johnson, Assemblywoman Shama Hader and Ellen Park, and of course Councilman Ken Rosenzweig and Angela David on winning the 3rd Ward Council seat. I look forward to working with her. I want to thank everyone who came out to participate in the 2 Parks in 1 Day event. I spoke afterwards with Professor Wolfram Hofer about it. He's the professor from Rutgers who is leading our strategic vision plan, and he was pleased with the turnout. He was pleased with the data that he received, and we will be having a meeting with the strategic committee on December 11th, and he will brief us at that point about that. I want to remind everybody to please complete the community survey. Just yesterday, we've gotten a few hundred responses. Yesterday alone, we got 70 responses. I was telling some of my fellow council people that 45% of the responses are from the second ward. So we need to get responses from the entire city. I did send an email to all my council colleagues today with the links. Please share it with the residents in your ward, with your neighbors, or just with residents anywhere in Englewood. And we're doing a big push over the next few weeks to get as many responses as we can. I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wasatsky. Fourth Ward Councilman Kevin Wilson. Kevin, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out during this busy holiday season to Zoom in with your council. I too would like to give a hearty congratulations to the coaches, the staff, the parents, the districts of the varsity football team, the baseball team, and the soccer team. Kudos to you guys. Great job. You're making it difficult for people to follow, but that's always good to have a good goal for people to shoot for that are coming behind you. So congratulations to the programs. My condolences to the Placide family during this difficult time of the holidays. Heartfelt condolences go out to you guys. And we've been having some situations in our ward and throughout the city of abandoned cars. And so I've got to say that if in fact that you see something, that you call the proper authorities. We don't make these rules where people can park with out-of-state plates and it's okay. And if we do not know, we cannot rectify any of those situations. So please advise the proper authorities. I had the pleasure of attending the Veterans Day at Depot Square, which is the Veteran Park now, and that was a beautiful ceremony. So I salute you, veterans, for all that you've done, all that you continue to do. Thank you for your services. I also congratulate Ken. You're in for another one. You must like it. So kudos to you. Happy that you won. And Miss David, if you're listening, congratulations. You're gonna have some big shoes to fill. Judith is moving on to probably bigger and better things. Thank you for all that you've done, Judith, and helping with the communication with me as I was coming on in a new freshman. I don't take it lightly, Judith. So thank you for guiding me, if you will, to the Rutgers community. I had the opportunity, I think it's 3 weeks now, to meet as they were walking through McKay Park, and we actually had a student that is from Englewood. And so as I shared with them is that as we get older, it is so important that we interact with the youth and the adults of the future, because they have their finger on the pulse of technology and things that they would like to see. So thank you for those that helped bring that program here. It's going to prove to be instrumental, and I look forward to working with you guys and learning a lot. For those of you who are celebrating, enjoy yourselves, be mindful of your surroundings as you shop, and enjoy the holidays.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I guess it's my turn now, and as I come closer to the end of my participation on the council, I just would like to thank my fellow councilmen and the mayor just for being who they are, giving of themselves, and caring so much about our city. And I'll have more to say about that when I get to the last meeting. Tonight, I just would like to say this because I hope people will realize that I am not running for office. I am telling you what I'm about to say is because I care so deeply about this city. I'm going to talk about affordable housing, not for a long time. I have always appreciated each person's right to have their own opinion about anything. I think it's very important to have your involvement, whatever we're doing. We're in a situation now where those people that are fighting and are very upset about the overlay have an opportunity to work with the planning board on the renewal and the revision of the existing master plan. I think if you heard the beginning of our meeting, Adam Brown spoke about adding sections on affordable housing and on flood abatement. And once that is being worked on by the planner that the planning board will hire to guide them, this is your opportunity to review whatever has gone before. This has to be done, and we need the community's involvement in the renewal of this master plan. It must be done. Now, what I'm saying to you is in response to the 2 lawsuits that have been filed against the city. Now, once again, I sit here representing the 3rd Ward, but also our city. These lawsuits, and Diane Jansen mentioned she wanted to know what that resolution was, the hiring of attorneys. What these lawsuits are doing is forcing the city to defend itself, which means hiring attorneys. The only people that are going to benefit from these 2 actions are the attorneys. These lawsuits and the fact that we have to go to court on these 2 issues is going to cost every citizen in Englewood money. This money will come from somewhere, and it will be from programs that we cannot afford because we are paying litigation costs that are totally unnecessary. And I'm just going to backtrack for 1 minute. All of you who don't agree with what has been done, which is your right, have an opportunity to keep their eye on the revision and the renewal and the addition to our master plan. This is where your efforts should be. This is where the change can be made. So I am appealing to your sense of fair play and caring about this city to think about that. This litigation is costly and is unnecessary. You will have your chance to be heard when all of the hearings begin for the revision and the renewal of our master plan, which will be done by the planning board. Those are the meetings you should be attending. Anyway, thank you, Bob, our city manager.
All right. Thank you, Council President, and good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to report that at our next meeting, December 5th, will be an in-person meeting. Work has now been completed on the new microphone system, the recording system, and the audio-visual system. It was completed last Friday, November 17th, and the training is scheduled for next Friday, December 1st, so that the system we will be able to operate the system, and our first meeting using the new microphones will be on December 5th. So we're looking forward to that, and then our meeting after that is December 19th. The city today hired 4 new police officers, lateral transfers. These officers are bilingual. 2 speak Spanish, 1 speaks Turkish, and 1 speaks Arabic. They will be at the meeting on December 5th so that the governing body will be able to meet and greet them. Their bios will be sent out to the governing body, but we will be welcoming Officer Juan Capellan. We will also welcome Officer Kevin Burrito, Officer Mohammed Dumbatsi, and then Officer Wassam Salame. 2 of our officers have received training for crisis intervention. All have received received awards from their current departments. We're also looking ahead that on January 24th, 2024, the city will be holding a written exam for the police department for the police test. As of Monday, the 20th, as of yesterday, we had 55 people that had signed up to take the test. So those who take the test and pass will then be scheduled for a physical agility test, and then the candidates will then go through other batteries of tests, and the goal is to have the background checks done and have candidates ready to attend the July 2024 Bergen County Police Academy class. And then they will be able to graduate in December and then have training, 3 months of field training, and then they will be released to be on patrol by March of 2025. So that is our goal. We have retirements and things like that are occurring, but longer term, our goal is to be able to have a valid list where our Englewood residents would have priority on the list, and then we would have a continuous list so that we would be able to hire in the future from that list. Also, on October 23rd, the police department began a pilot program with social workers. So the program is called Arrive Together. It's the Arrive Together initiative. It's a grant-funded program where we have social workers that are riding with the police for 16 hours a week, and that they're able to help when there are behavioral health issue calls that come in. And so far, the results have been very positive. Year to date, our dispatch center has seen an increase of 13.8% in the number of calls that have come in. So that's an additional 5,610 calls over 2022 for the same period of time. In 2022, we had 40,556 calls. This year, for the same period of time, we're up to 46,166 calls. On Thursday, November 30th, and this goes to some of the items that were talked about by Councilman Cobb, Chairman Brown for the Zoning Board, and the Mayor. On Thursday, November 30th, the city will hold a bid opening for responses to the master plan RFP. So we look forward to the planning board evaluating the responses and then selecting a planner who will begin work in early January on the city's update to the master plan. As of a week ago, we had 16 planning firms that had asked for and received copies of the RFP packet. Our new Mack Electric garbage trucks are now scheduled to be delivered in March of 2024. And the reason is there was a 3-month delay because Mack is part of the United Auto Workers Union, and there was a 3-month strike. So the trucks will begin their the trucks will once again start on the line next week. So they're partially built, but they will be finished. So the strike was settled last week, and we're looking forward to having the trucks come. The next couple of days, the forecast calls for heavy rains and wind. So our DPW has been out checking catch basins and picking up leaves as quickly as possible. But please help us by making sure that leaves are not blocking drains, and this will help prevent ponding or flooding as we move forward. And then, as Councilwoman Wasowski mentioned, and so did the mayor, we have the Community Parks Survey. So please participate in that. As of 11:30 this morning, we had 288 complete responses to the survey, and this will help the city evaluate the parks programs in the future and how our funds should be spent. And then on behalf of everybody on the city staff, I want to wish a happy and healthy and safe Thanksgiving to all who are listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're now at the point where we are opening the meeting to the public session where our attendees have an opportunity to speak, ask questions, comment. If there are questions, we will attempt to answer them when everyone has spoken. Please give us your name, your address. You will have 3 minutes. Yancy? You're muted,
Sorry,
Yancy.
I just realized. First one in queue is Amy Bullock. Please unmute.
Good
Amy?
evening, Amy Bullock, Howland Avenue. A couple of things I want to run through very quickly. At a prior meeting, I asked about these first draft ordinances being included in the agenda with just the title. And could we please include the draft of the ordinance? It would be helpful for the community to understand what the goal is. We understand what a draft is. We will understand that it's not permanent, but I think the right thing to do in the spirit of transparency is to include the draft ordinance in the agenda. There's no legal reason why you can't. It is done in other municipalities. So I'd like to hear what the issue is with that. I also asked the question whether or not the city has an ordinance or resolution on record regarding nepotism, cronyism, and political patronage. I would like an update on what's happening with the Taylor Bliss House, Liberty School. Are we working through an SOP for the Recreation Department and the Board of Education for shared services, so to speak, whether it be the pool, the junior football team, or whoever? Curious as to why we're approving minutes from June and November. And I've heard the question asked a couple of times to the planning board and or the Board of Adjustment if they've gotten calls from developers, but no one has asked the residents if they've gotten calls from developers. And I can tell you, we get mailers, we get text messages, and we get calls. So calls are happening. They're starting on the ground with the people who actually own the property. The city doesn't own the property. There's no need for them to engage with you if they can't get the property. The last thing I want to say on a very different note is I had the opportunity today to attend a screening at the Consulate of Israel in Manhattan today to view some of the footage from Hamas body cams and some of the victims' phones. And I want to say that I've made the statement before that I unequivocally stand against terrorism. And I'm going to say it again, in any form. I will continue to be an advocate for innocent victims whose lives are either ended or impacted by terroristic acts, whether those acts happen across the world or right here at home, because we do have terrorism here at home. And the African American community understands that very well. I think as a city, we need to focus on fighting terrorism, whether it's at home or abroad. And we need to be united in that, because the victims, it doesn't matter what side of the tracks they're on, a victim is a victim. And that's who we should be working to support in these situations, regardless of who, what, when, where, why, how, race, creed, religion, economic status. Victims of terrorism deserve our support. Thank you. I look forward to the answers to my questions.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay. Next is, it just says Zoom user. Please unmute.
Yeah, Rick Welby. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to be clear on what's going on here, not just only the terrorism that Amy Bullock referenced abroad, but at home. Thank you, Kevin, for acknowledging Bernard Placide and what his family's going through. I had the privilege of being on a Zoom with some Palestinians and the esteemed Dr. Norman Finkelstein, who's the author of The Holocaust Industry. And, within the context of the occupation from 1948 up until 2023, it's easy to identify who the terrorists are. The terrorists are the United States of America that funds an occupation and gives them all the means to annihilate a civilian population. The UN Security Council has said that the Palestinians are occupied and they have the right to self-defense. I asked Dr. Finkelstein this question, and he answered that a lot of these young men have witnessed terror at the hands of the occupation and have grown up in an open-air concentration camp and have done what anybody else would do if they had no other alternative to preserve their life. The death count is up to 15,000 right now. Half of those are children. Many of the people that were on the Zoom were Jewish Voices for Peace that were clear that a lot of them were Holocaust survivors. And when they said never again, they meant never again for nobody. It is a shame that the baby killers and Zionists on this council continue to ignore. Some of you guys are doctors. You continue to ignore the doctors that are being killed in Gaza, the reporters that are being killed in Gaza, the children, babies, men, women, elderly that are being killed by terrorist criminals from all over Europe talking about they're indigenous to a land that they occupy because of a British mandate. Shame on you all that want to talk about your standing with somebody. We don't stand with evil. We don't stand with oppressors. We don't stand with criminals. We don't stand with white supremacists. We don't stand with Nazis. We'll be very clear about the Palestinian issue and the rights of those Christians and Muslims and Jews that do not want nothing to do with a Zionist ethno-state that wants to do what the Ku Klux Klan aspired to do, to have a homeland for white supremacy, because that's all it is. And again, we will be very clear about our support for Gaza from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free.
Thank you, Ricky. Next, it says greatsun1@yahoo.com. Please unmute.
Thank you very much, Council, and good evening to the Council, and good evening to all who are present. If you do not mind, I'd like to be a point of personal privilege. Shakespeare once said, and when he shall die, take him out and cut him out like little stars, and he will make the heaven of face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night. I say this to open my remarks because I come on a point of grief in tribute to a man who believed in the value of peace and life. And he came from humble beginnings in Japan in 1928 as a son of a fisherman of seaweed. Later on, a life-changing alternative event took place that made him question everything. His brother was killed during World War II in Burma, and then he began to have a life-altering encounter with a man who would change his life through the value of Buddhism, named Jose Toda. He was introduced to the practice when he was 19, and he began a journey to promote the genuine aspect of peace. At that time, the doctors told him that he would not live past 30, but because of his faith in Buddhism, in the Nichiren school of Buddhism, and so much more, he would live for 9 decades, traveling the globe, meeting with leaders, writing books, including one that would chronicle his journeys, The New Human Revolution. I speak about the man whom I mourn with profound sadness, the man who was the leader of a group called the Society of Creating Value, Daisaku Ikeda, who on November 15th, 2023, entered transition to the next level. If it wasn't for him and the movement to bring this great philosophy of Buddhism, you wouldn't see me standing here today speaking to you directly, or being able to lead my community towards a betterment of the United States and Englewood, or anywhere to promote dialogue and peace through life. He was a man who fought so hard and gave his life so that we could be the peacemakers, the game changers, and the earth shakers. I am proud to stand here today as one of those many disciples who believe in the power of this great philosophy. My friend Brenda is among them, my mother as well, and we all stand in mourning for this brilliant man who we lost. There will be a memorial to celebrate his life this Sunday, and I ask any way that a tribute of some sort be given to his life through the council or through the mayor in any way, shape, or form. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, next in line is Diane Jansen. Please unmute.
Hello. Hello, Diane Jansen. The first question is again for our attorneys and counsel. I believe with respect to affordable housing round 4, a number of towns I know are working together. They filed a suit in the appellate division against the state and the governor to compel them to nominate members to coach, or to, that is, to reconstitute coach, which is the Council on Affordable Housing. The towns that are participating in this are Chatham, Clinton, Greenwich, Lebanon, Saddle River, and Westfield. And the oral argument is currently scheduled for December 12th, 2023 in Trenton. How will this affect us? Can we be a party to this? Because right now, this affordable housing formula, let's face it, it's 80% market value. This is a builder's remedy as far as many of us are concerned. So that's point 1. Point 2 is I agree with Planning Board Vice Chair Marin with respect to pools in undersized lots. Not having the lot size needed for a pool is not a hardship. I also feel that with the inordinate number of pools in wards 1 and 2 and the lack of pools in wards 3 and 4, that has truly created another unintended divide between the private sector and the public, the have and the have-nots. We have a community pool, and that has prison-type toilets in the ladies' room. That's not acceptable. Come on. So, you know, if all of us were using the pools, would we have prison-type toilets in the ladies' room? So I just raised that. Number 3, we're only online for the park survey. That's really not acceptable. Number 4, hybrid meetings. I don't know what we're putting into into the municipal court, but we really need to look at TNEC Council and how they do wonderful hybrid meetings. They were able to do it during their tense time when they were doing the Peace and Unity ordinance, and Hackensack Community Center. If they can have high-tech hybrids, why can't we? And then lastly, Judith Marin, thank you for your service. And most of all, thank you for heading up the purchase of 47 Brook and preventing it from being developed and putting people in harm's way. Thank you for making it oh, just thank you. Something was done right, and we're so happy to thank you for that with much gratitude. I know all the residents of Englewood feel that this sets a precedent for future development.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, next is Alida Frizzell. Please unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to quickly say, Alida Frizzell, Fairfield Street, Englewood, New Jersey. And I attended the park event, the Morris Park piece. I've lived in the 3rd Ward for more years than I want to admit. And I did not know about Morris Park. I had a girlfriend that lived right up the street on Morris Avenue. and I did not know about Morris Park. I did come out to the first half. One was Crystal Lake and the other was Morris Park. I found that it was well organized. Thank you, Dr. Lisa Wazowski, for that. It was unique in that they had students that distributed cards for the residents, and the residents would write on the card what they liked about the park, what they disliked, and any recommendations they had. And then the students would put like a stake in the ground and place that card in the stake. So I just wanted to thank you for that and say that I enjoyed it immensely. And I also got the email with the survey. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is Sarah Stroman. Please unmute.
I wondered when I was going to go on. Sarah Stroman, 72 West Hudson. So I took a break from Englewood politics because it's as exhausting as ever. And I wanted to join tonight specifically to reflect on Englewood and the direction the city's taken, especially in light of the global political scene, since we feel like we need to voice our opinions in that realm. Before I get there, I want to address what was discussed earlier by Adam Brown and also Councilman Cobb in regards to recycling. So I am an ex-environmental commissioner, and I am always disappointed by the council, but I am extremely disappointed by the council now. I'm very much caught up on the overlay situation, and I'm baffled that the city council would completely disregard its constituents. But based on the topics that have come up, which I'm going to talk about, I'm not surprised. And I wonder how much the Environmental Commission has been involved or will be involved, because when I was on the commission, we met in City Hall and then we got moved into the library. And now I think they're just Zoom calls. And I think everybody just sort of thinks the Environmental Commission doesn't do anything or care about anything. And really, recycling is important. It's part of the climate change issue. So if we're going to talk about cutting a budget of $20,000 for recycling, then what are the alternatives to reduce the waste stream? That is something that is very important, that impacts soil and erosion and flooding and all of the other issues that get balled up into this conversation, but seem to be passed along as separate entities. So that needs to be addressed. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was how in the city council meeting last month, everybody talked about how Englewood is such a diverse city. And Diane actually just mentioned about the pool situation and divisions in the city. And I find Englewood to be a very segregated city. And I mean, yes, we want to talk about diversity when it's convenient and we want to give ourselves pats on the back, but when we actually have to talk about diversity and inclusion, it doesn't actually come up. So the mayor already knows this because I attended a Zoom call a few weeks ago and I criticized his use of language on the situation that's going on in what is known as Palestine. I will not engage with the mayor in a private phone call because I do believe that this conversation requires everybody in the city of Englewood. There are people that do not stand with Israel. I am one of them. And I am okay saying that. I am okay declaring it. I am not being anti-Semitic. I do not need to denounce anything. I just need to make sure that everybody here understands that this conversation has destroyed any sense of equity or community in this town. And everybody jumped into a resolution and everybody spoke out and nobody actually talked to the constituents in this town except for a certain group of people. So when you want to talk, wait, is it a time?
3 minutes are up. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. No one else has their hand raised. Oh, sorry, one more. Oh, no, he had his hand raised, but he lowered it. He raised it again. You want to try? It says Hoyle. Please unmute.
Yes, good evening, City Council. I'd like to present this question to the council, the mayor, city attorney, William Bailey, and the city manager.
Could we
And I'd
please
like
have
to-
your name and address for the record?
Okay, I thought she said my name. Joseph Hoyle, Elmore Avenue, Inglewood.
Thank you, Mr. Hoyle.
The city attorney and the city manager. With regards to the 4 police transfers that were hired today, I'd like to know what standing did these officers have on a current ordinance that's on record in the city of Inglewood that gives preference to Inglewood residents? And is this hiring in violation of the ordinance? And I'd like to know why we're ignoring that ordinance as well.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Oh, is Mr. Hoyle done? Mr. Hoyle, are you done?
Well, as soon as we
Yeah, yes,
close,
I'm
we
done with
will
that.
answer his question.
Thank you. Zoom user raised their hand again, but we're only allowed to speak once. Sorry.
Okay, is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, so we will now
You want Sir.
we will now close the public session. We have answers now to the questions that were asked. Bob, you want to deal with the whatever you would like. There were several questions.
Sure, I'll start. Ms. Bullock asked several questions. She asked about draft ordinances in the agenda. If that could go. That's been a policy of the city that final ordinances are put out to avoid confusion. Not draft ordinances because they have the ability to be changed, so we don't want to have confusion. There was also a question that was asked about, is there a resolution on nepotism? I don't know the answer offhand. We'll look, but we are redoing our employee handbook, and we can look tomorrow. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure of that answer. There was another question about the Taylor Bliss House. There was just an update on the Taylor Bliss House. I know that there's work that's being done on the Taylor Bliss House to button it up and to make it ready to become a museum and an office. I'm not sure what else to say about the Taylor Bliss House at the moment. There was also a question about Liberty School. And what we can say is that their engineers have recently gone through there to make sure that it is structurally sound, and they will be providing a report to the city in the near future. There was another question about recreation shared services. Does the recreation department have shared services with the school district? So the theoretical answer is yes. There is the city through the rec department requests use of Board of Education fields and other facilities for different recreation groups and programs. There was a question about the pool. So the governing body has discussed renewing leases for the pool, and there is some work that needs to be done on identifying retaining walls and things like that will help protect the pools in the future. And then those are the questions. Miss Bullock talked about going to the Israeli consulate and looking at video footage October 7th terrorists strike. I added the October 7th, but and that she stands against any form of terrorism, which is very commendable. Mr. Wilby spoke. He stated his opinion. He's entitled to his opinion. Everybody is. Nobody wants to see children killed. He had stated that half of the children, half of the casualties in Gaza were children that were killed. I will just say the United States is not a terrorist organization, but everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Mr. Wilby and others. There was the gentleman with the email address of Great Son One commented about a revered leader who died at age 95. He was a member of the Buddhist sect, and there's a memorial service on Sunday, November 26th. Ms. Jansen talked about 12 towns or several towns that are suing the state and the governor about the Council on Affordable Housing, and to make sure that people are appointed so that the COA office can be reactivated, and we can have COA articulate the rules that all of the municipalities have to follow, and not the courts. So that's something that would be welcomed by almost every municipality in the state. And then we'll put on our list. I don't remember going into the ladies room, but she was talking about the toilets in the women's room at some of our community pools, and then looking at hybrid meetings for TNEC. And yes, we will do that to see, since we now have new technology, whether that works. And that was very nice of her to provide kind words to you, Council President, for the work that you've done as Council President, and also for the purchase of 47 Brook Avenue. Ms. Stroman talked about recycling, how important recycling is. Mr. Hoyle asked questions about the police transfers and what's the standing with the ordinance. The city, the ordinance was not violated. We are actively looking for future police officer candidates to come from Inglewood, just as we did for the fire department. There is a provision for lateral transfers, and that's what the city used. And our ultimate goal is to serve and protect the residents.
Madam President, can I just add just a couple real quick things?
Absolutely.
On what Mr. Hoffman said?
Thank you. Yes.
Just in terms of Mr. Hoyle's comment, I just want to note, I'm not involved in the labor. We have special labor counsel. I know a little bit about labor, but I know enough to know what I don't know. So there's another attorney that advises the city on that. In terms of, Ms. Bullock also mentioned patronage. We have one of the strictest pay-to-play ordinances on the books in the state. However, a few months ago, the state legislature passed law basically preempting all local ordinances with respect to pay-to-play, just as a point of information. And Ms. Jansen, I would just note, the attorney handling that case is a guy by the name of Jeff Serenian, who coincidentally is partners with Mr. Buzak. So we can get some information on that as well, in terms of if there's an interest to participate in that. That's just all I wanted to add.
Thank you very much.
I have a question, if I may. And this is just, I guess, for the city manager or for the attorney, although he conceded he was an expert on the labor issue. When the police department hires laterally because they're all trained and ready to move in, is the assumption that we're deriding an ordinance or we have the ability at our fingertips to do a few things in order to find officers? Mr. Hoffman?
The answer is we have the ability to do a few things, and we had looked through this process to see if there was Englewood residents that wanted to make a lateral transfer, but that was not the case. We have some needs, but that needed to be filled. We have retirements. We're going to have more retirements coming up, but make no mistake about it. The long-term plan, just like with the fire department, is to have a valid list that we can go through and have Englewood residents serve this city. This had been talked about previously in closed session, but we are after our class in January. There's still a long lead time, but this is our goal ultimately is not to have lateral transfers in the future. Our goal is to have valid lists that we can use that would have Englewood residents first, and then Bergen County residents, and just go through it.
That would behoove us to then dig into our high school, and if there's a path for law enforcement to encourage the high school students who then want to go maybe to John Jay or to criminal justice, and then to kind of incentivize them to stay within our system and within our city. So I'd love to see that now that we have what I believe a talented superintendent and yourself seated, that we delve into creating that inventory, that constituency of home-based law enforcement, whether it's our finest, our bravest, our public works, and so forth. A lot of kids don't want to go to college, and they're interested in the science of police work and so forth. So again, to the extent that we have to protect our residents and use all tools accessible to us, I'd like to see that initiative in the coming years.
Yeah, the superintendent, there's a list of 31 different positions in the city that we can work with the high school on, and we're looking forward to doing that.
Good. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bob. Charles?
Yeah, I have a question, and I want an answer. I didn't know that we were hiring anybody till tonight, till we got there, so again, and I think I've said this before, is that it shouldn't be a secret to us. We shouldn't have to learn at the meeting that we've hired 4 police officers and they're going to be sworn in at a different date. I think that is not the way we should be operating like that, bring it to the council after these people have been hired, because, there's a whole process that takes place. I rail against that. I am not happy about that. And I'm talking about the process. Tell us, okay, we got some candidates. This is what we're going to do. I don't think we should know tonight. Okay, I'm still waiting for fair and equal pay for people in the city, but we're hiring all these other people, and they'll make more money than the people that we got making $14 and $15 an hour. So, I think that we need to do this, but we need to also consider how this community views this, and they don't view this positively at all. At all. And so now we got to deal with this, and if we don't get out in front of it, we play defense all the time. So, I listen, I don't take ownership of this, because I'm just told tonight, and I'm not going to cut anymore. I ain't happy about finding out tonight. I'm not happy about it. And you know what? I'm a taxpayer here, so I have a voice too as well. And to sit on the council and not know what's going on, that's problematic. It shouldn't happen that way. It just shouldn't. It's just not the right way to conduct business. If we need people, we should have that discussion. We should say, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we'd like to do. Your actions speak louder than what you're talking about. So, this is very unfortunate. And I just have to tell you that this is not good at all. And You know what? You can tell me about being safe in Inglewood or whatever. You know what? I've been here longer than most. So I just don't think this is the way we want to operate. This is not the environment that we want to have here. Now you lead. Now tomorrow, you know, I'm getting texts from people banging my phone up about this. Did you know about this? And how do I look? And I say no. I don't like that. I don't like that. Thanks.
Okay.
Councilwoman, Kevin has his hand raised.
Kevin, go ahead.
Yes, I've attended 2 symposiums where the police chief had his staff with him as far as recruiting and direction for the upcoming class and the test. And they talked about the extent of the agility, the resume, the dressing. It was very informative, but never once out of those 2 events did I hear that we were at a rush prior to this upcoming test that we were looking for 4 people laterally. It's just hard to explain to my constituents after I've shown up at those 2 events that these guys appear to be leapfrogging, as opposed to me saying or sharing with the community that these opportunities are available and this is what we will be looking for. And I would like to see where we're in a position where we can allow laterals to supersede our ordinance in regards to giving the Inglewood residents a opportunity, because at every turn where it appears that we're championed for our community, there seems to be something put in that I'm not aware of how they leapfrog, or you guys were leapfrogging over the ordinance. And if there's a need, I think that should be shared, not just we're doing a huge test. And I was saying kudos to the recruitment. And it almost seems like we're doing something different. We're giving a test, but we're already going to hire these 4 people. It appears like it's misdirection. And it's hard for me to explain and to respond to these emails that I'm getting in Texas right now that no one knew. And I sure didn't know. And I think that we should be afforded that opportunity before this slaps us in the face.
Bob, would you like to respond?
I'll go through my notes tomorrow, but this is something that had been reviewed previously, but I don't want to give the council wrong information, so I will go through my notes and get back. But this is something that had been discussed in one of our previous closed sessions. But again, our goal is to have valid lists for 3 years and not have to do this in the future.
I for one, Mr. Hoffman, would like to see the provision that supersedes the ordinance that allows laterals.
Okay.
Because some of our experiences with laterals, and as we've had discussions, could use some improving.
Correct.
Councilman Wilson, I remember saying at a meeting that we shouldn't take any more transfers and allow other people to get in there.
Absolutely.
So now, while my phone is banging right now, I'm going to be banging tomorrow, because this here is not the way we should do this. And now people feel that they don't have the opportunity. And that's the problem. We go down to these they came down to the houses of worship and sell these goods. And now they're saying to me, hey, what about this? Because I was at both of them, just like you were. And all I'm saying is, if that's what we're going to do, transfers are not going to be on the list. They don't make the list. They keep going. And now you know, that's not like you say, okay, you got to get on this list let me make sure that every Inglewood person has an opportunity first. Is that how we're going through the process? I don't know what the process is.
I didn't
because
even
guess what?
hear the
I'm
opportunity.
just being told that. And again, I don't like that. That speaks volumes about how we operate. And we want to know about dysfunction. We want to know about all that. And I just can't digest that. Madam President, I see you waving at me, but this here bothers me tremendously because we can't operate like that out here in the public sphere. That's all I'm saying.
All I wanted to say to you, Charles, is we've asked Bob to give us the history. And before you go any further, give the guy a chance to come forward with how this evolved. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong.
I hear you. I hear you, but what I'm saying to you is I addressed this before. So about the transfers and all that, because we were getting all these transfers from Patterson. And I said, we're getting all these transfers and we got all these other people and we got all that. And all I'm saying to you is this. One, before tonight, if we were hiring people, we should have already known that. That's all I'm saying. This is about communication. And then if we're doing that, don't come down there and have these things at these churches if we're not going to be honest with them and that. Don't do that. Because listen, when I go there, they're going to tell me, I'm not doing this no more with y'all. I don't want that. That's not right. We're misleading people. Don't do that to this community. And it's all right. Because some people they can go home at night. I live here. We got to understand that. And that's all I'm saying is we need to be truth tellers with this and be honest and transparent. This smells bad and looks bad. That's all I'm saying. And that's all I got to say. I'm done.
Bob, where are the 4 transfers from?
The four transfers are from Patterson. So, and we're projecting 13 vacancies coming up, and we're going to we're not doing the police with
Why are we taking people from Patterson? Why?
All right.
Why are we taking people from Patterson and they got the AG over there doing an investigation? Why are we doing that? Why are we the stopping ground? Why are we going to make an opportunity for somebody else when we got make opportunities for the kids here? This is what I'm saying. I said this and I had this conversation before. Listen, I can't walk away from this one.
Okay.
This is not good. Because we said that. And it's not about them. It's about the process. It's not about them. It's about the process. And that's what I'm saying to you. Now you got to deal with the people who are paying your salaries here in Englewood because they feel like they're being misled. Here's my phone banging now. Same thing. What's going on?
Okay.
That's not fair.
The people are not being misled, and
they are being misled. They are.
No.
Because you can't tell me that they're not being misled. I'm being misled because I asked we not do this with Patterson again. So if I'm being misled, the people are being misled because I represent the people.
Okay.
That don't change.
Okay, this is
Right.
not the end of this conversation, obviously.
Oh, you're right about that.
Correct.
You have to
Correct.
get the closed session too.
Yep.
Correct.
But the process already happened, Madam Chair.
I'm not disagreeing, Kevin.
You can't unring the bell.
Mhm.
Oh. All right.
Okay, can we've answered the questions from the public. I'd like to close this session so that we could go into closed session. Anybody I'm sorry, I'm a little rattled by this discussion.
Need a motion to go into closed session.
Do we have a second? Do we have a motion?
I'll make
Closed
a motion.
session.
I
We
make
have
a
a motion. Let's have a second. I second it. Okay, all in favor? Can we have a unanimous, all in favor to go into closed session?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll see
Well,
you then.
Hold on. I didn't hear
What?
from everybody. I called the roll, I guess.
Okay, Yancy, roll call.
Sorry, I was muted. Councilman Cobb,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Councilman Wilson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wasatski,
Yes.
Council President Marin.
Yes. Okay, we'll see you in closed session.
Everyone, please go to the link that I sent you this afternoon. Thank you.
Ciao. Good night.